Welcome to this week's podcast interview. I'm your host, Robin Seville with BrideAccess.com. It's my honor and my real pleasure to welcome to the program this week Mary Crafts and Rachel Heimer from Culinary Crafts. Welcome to the program today.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks for having us.
We've been working with Culinary Crafts for many years now, and it's been such a pleasure. And I think one of the reasons why is because of the quality of the service that you bring to not only the food at the wedding, but the feel of the wedding. Mary, why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, it's kind of been a long process. When I first started doing weddings 26 years ago, people would come in and I would just talk about the food. And what did they want to serve and design the food. And then when I would show up on site, I would be bombarded with questions. Hi, when is the cake coming in? Oh, I forgot to order a gift table. And hi, will you help us with the bridal bouquet toss? I'm like, wait, I'm just a caterer. I'm not the wedding planner. And as time went on, I began to realize that it saved me a lot of headache if I would just kind of help brides go through that process, that I became more of an event planner for them and not just a caterer. So when vendors show up on site, I know right where something's supposed to be. I know what the timeline's going to look like. I know what their vision is for the entire thing. I know the layout. And so when brides come in, they always think they're going to talk about food, but we talk about so much more. And I think that that's one of the things, Rachel, that you have gotten so good at, is really just expanding what I started with, and now you're designing everything for the bride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that, Rachel.
Yeah, actually, it's one of the things I love about weddings is you have corporate events. We handle the corporate side of business as well, but those seem to be more cookie cutter. With weddings, it really is about the bride. So when she comes in to meet with us, we really take the time to go through a thorough meeting and talk to her about all of her likes and dislikes and learn what she likes about in flowers and in her design, and talk to her about the different foods that she loves and that her grooms love, so that we can custom design something for them. And it is my favorite thing about creating weddings, is that each and every one is different and everyone is personalized to the bride alone. And design, of course, is always fun for me, because I've always had a way of seeing the whole picture in my head from the beginning. When a bride says to me, oh, these are the colors I like, and this is the style that I feel I want, and I like vintage details from the 1950s, then I have a picture that just comes to my mind right away, where I can help her to kind of streamline all of her ideas, and rather than a lot of small things that make it look a certain way, we instead bring together a whole entire picture so that we can incorporate that in her tent, in her tablescapes, in the way we display the food, in the lighting, signage.
Yeah, it's so much more than just coming in, it sounds like, and saying, I want food at my wedding.
Well, and it is about food, though. We can't forget that. Yeah. That's what we are first and foremost. Coming, right? Yeah. Because I think, we've all had that experience where we've gone into a bakery shop, and it's beautiful. And the food just looks amazing, and you can't wait to take your little goodie out to the car to taste it. When you get out there, you're disappointed because it looked so amazing, but it tasted, that was kind of a basic industrial, Crisco kind of a frosting thing. And so for us, it's combining those two together, making it look amazing, and the food so delectable. But then when you put it in your mouth, it's even better than what it looked like. You're not disappointed. And so it's bringing all those aspects together, remembering that we are caterers first, but catering and so much more.
Yeah. Now there's so many different options a bride has. I mean, some of the things we've done together is we've talked about green weddings, being good with the environment, but the colors too. I mean, you guys are working in all aspects of the wedding. Mm-hmm. Right? The flowers. When a bride comes to you, what would you recommend time-wise? How long before her wedding should she be sitting down with Culinary Crafts?
I say the earlier the better, only because I think the larger aspects of your catering's a large portion of your budget. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at the things like the venue, your catering, your flowers, I think the earlier you can get those done, the better. I would say almost 6 months before the wedding, would be a good time to have that nailed down, only because it helps you to build your budget and then go from there. The advice I always give to brides is once we decide on the menu, then take it and set it aside and don't look at it again.
Really? Really?
Because what will happen is the more you look at it and the more you revisit it, you're going to want to change your mind. So you're going to say, oh, maybe we should change this thing. Oh, maybe we should change this thing. And then in the end, and this has happened so many times, where brides change throughout, and then they'll come back and in the end want the same menu that they decided on right in the beginning.
They do a full circle.
They really
spend a lot
do.
of time in that.
And it's happened
circle.
so many times. And so my advice is decide on it. It's a beautiful menu. Everything you love everything that's there, and then just set it aside and take that portion and check that off your list. Done. Same, the same with the dress. You have the fittings. And there may be a few instances where you have talked to a few people in your family. You find out that maybe there's a gluten allergy or that you have more vegetarians. Definitely come back then and make some adjustments to the menu. What would you say, Mary?
Well, and we have to remember we are in Utah.
Yeah, the engagements tend to be
Engagements
shorter.
are very short. And I can always tell a bride who's not from Utah, because the first question out of her mouth is, I'm getting married and it's only a year. Am I going to be
available?
Am I going to be okay? And I laugh. Are you from New York? Because in New York, you literally need 2 years.
Yeah.
Here, we're used to doing things. We would love to have 6 months. A lot of brides who got engaged for the holidays, they're getting married in April. Brides who are getting engaged in February at Valentine's Day, they're getting married in May. I mean, so we are used to putting
Sometimes
this on.
they're working around school.
Yeah.
Or maybe military situations. Now, I have seen you guys I think at almost any venue in Utah. Or in backyards. I mean, you definitely know how to work within the place where the wedding and reception is going to be located, right? Does the venue play a lot into the way you guys have to set up and staff it?
A lot. We love to recommend venues, and on our website we have a whole section just dedicated to venues. It's a huge driving factor, and that's probably one of the very first decisions that a bride will make in her reception. Yes, there's the ring, and yes, there's the wedding dress, but then where am I going to host this? Because that really drives a menu. I think about some of the fun weddings that we have done together, Robin, when we did that beautiful wedding of Heidi Kohler's in that outdoor setting, and we didn't have anything to work on. It was just a beautiful outdoor setting, so we had to build a staging tent. We had to bring in mobile ovens to create this absolutely gorgeous formal plated dinner for her. And then I remember the wedding we did up Hobble Creek, and that was a beautiful estate. But once again, how are you going to serve 1,000 people and not break the bank completely? So that was a matter of, okay, people are coming to this beautiful home. They expect some food, but we don't want to break the bank. It's 1,000 people. So it was custom designing a menu that would work in that situation. I know one of Rachel's favorite venues is the Salt Lake Hardware Building, and you design menus just around the look of that building.
I do. I think it calls for stations and getting up and roaming around and dancing and having fun. It's a fun venue, and it calls for a fun reception.
And I imagine at those receptions, when the bride says, I'm going to have my reception, wherever that location may be, for the most part, you're familiar with it.
Very familiar. We're a preferred caterer at more venues than any other caterer in Utah. We have a preferred listing at over 40 venues. And when someone says to me, I'd like to be at the McEwen Mansion, I know they're all about elegance and fabulous and something very grand looking, and that's very different than I've selected a ranch location. I'm going to be at Rendezvous Ranch up in Oakley. Well, that's a whole different kind of thing. And so we love to tailor make it so that when the guests walk in, they look and they say, oh, doesn't this look just like Jessica or Rachel or whoever it is? And I don't want them to say, oh, this is a Culinary Crafts wedding. I want them to recognize our quality, but never that it's the same thing over and over. Oh, yeah, I saw this at the last 5 weddings. But rather that each wedding is unique and it's a reflection of the bride herself.
Yeah, I love some of the weddings I've been to where Culinary Crafts has been there, whether it's the ice cream options. We
Yes,
have people
yes.
serving various flavors of ice cream. I've seen cotton candy.
Yes.
I've seen candy buffets, and I've seen the most exquisite, beautiful meals. And some of the weddings I've been to where you guys have been is very intimate. There's not a lot of people, 50 people maybe, and others are many hundreds, as you've indicated. What do you think a bride needs to know? She's listening to this. What are some of the things that she probably should be taking into consideration when she's looking to have catering at her wedding?
One of the things I encourage a bride is to be really open with us about her budget. And I know that Rachel feels strongly about this. If we know a bride's budget, then we can really help her get the very most for her catering dollar. Sometimes brides are afraid to share their budgets with us because they think we're going to, I don't know, snatch them up and put them away in a vault or something. I don't know. But if we really understand that and we develop a trust relationship, then we are going to be working to give her the very best reception within her budget. I never want a bride to spend more with us than she's planned, because then in the end, when they get the bill, they only remember, oh my gosh, I spent more than I planned, rather than remembering it was the most beautiful day of my life. So I want no surprises on the bill. I don't want to oversell the bride. I want to just create her dream.
You know, I've said that the different weddings I've seen you at, and it's really a great endorsement for Culinary Crafts, because many of these weddings have been referrals, or it's been a brother or sister who got married a year later or 2 years later, and there's Culinary Crafts again. And yet those weddings where it's a sibling getting married or it's been a referral to a friend, you're exactly right. The wedding itself is often very different. It's not like you said, Mary,
Cookie
it's
cutter.
a cookie cutter. It's whatever the theme is that bride is working with, you're working within the environment and what her vision is of her wedding. I know you give great feedback and suggestions because you've done thousands of these and exactly know. But it really is helping to fulfill the dream and the vision of what that bride wants. I remember two sisters a couple years ago got married within, what, 2 months or 6 weeks?
Yes.
One was outside, one was in a barn, a beautiful outdoor setting, and one was inside a beautiful barn too. I don't want to make it sound like it was, there weren't horses and cows walking around.
Not that kind of a barn.
But yet the feeling was so different. And yet it was so unique to the bride. And I love looking at the video footage from that, because Culinary Crafts did an amazing job, but you did it within the vision of that bride for her wedding.
When you visit our website, you'll see so many of our weddings. And Rach, I would love to see you talk about some of those unique weddings that you've created. Like I think about Carly Hart, and I think about the Edelblut wedding. So vastly different, and how your creative brain is amazing to me.
You can see our brain. Our audience can't see that right now. I can see her thinking.
There's so many different weddings that we've done, and each and every one, like I said, I take the time to really learn what the bride wants and what's going to make this a magical evening for her. With each and every bride and groom, we send home a bag, and in that bag we give them a taste of everything that were served that evening. And then we also put in a couple Culinary Crafts bottled waters, and so then they get to take that with them at the end of the evening, so that if they've been in a receiving line throughout the evening, they actually will get a chance to taste their food. So sorry, I had to mention that.
They love the water the most.
They love the water
because they don't realize they have not had any water the whole night and talked the whole night.
Well, and they love the food. Like there are so many that have gotten in thank you notes. Thank you so much for sending this food for me. We loved it. And we actually got to taste something. That's important to me too. When thinking about the wedding, I do want to consciously think, how are we going to make sure that the bride and groom and the family are getting to taste some of the food as well, that we're not just having a reception for everyone else, but that either at some point in the evening I have our waiters approaching them and bringing them some food, or that we've taken a certain segment in the timeline so that everyone can eat together. And those are all very different things. Alexandra Edelblut's, for example, everyone sat down together at one time. We had a welcome, we thanked everyone for coming, we had a very formal dinner. And then you look at someone like Carly Hart's wedding that was in a garden setting in the yard of the house that she grew up in, and guests were just coming and going. It was a very easy flow through the evening, where you visited stations that we placed throughout the yard. So we made sure that in the beginning, we had a half an hour's worth of time between the ring ceremony that they had in the yard and when guests were arriving, so that I could take Carly and her groom along to every single station and make sure that they tried everything before anyone else did.
This is kind of a funny thing. I think about Carly Hart, and she had a clothesline with clothespins on it and things, and that was perfect for her. When people walked in, they went, oh my gosh, it's Carly. And then Alexander Edelblut, for example, her name is just what it sounds like. She was the grande dame of brides. And we even brought her china in from California because there was nothing local that would fit her elegant style. And just the most over-the-top vintage linens and china and glassware and crystal and...
She reminded me of a doll.
Yeah, a porcelain doll.
She looked like a porcelain. She just looked like a porcelain doll, and even had the wedding dress that was just the big
Marie
ballroom.
Antoinette kind of. Yeah,
the big ballroom gown, and she was just a beautiful, beautiful little tiny girl.
Yeah.
But her wedding was exquisite in the detail that we brought into the table settings and the linens and the menu from there. And then Carly Hart's was more fun. The area that we actually brought the clothespins in and then made banners for were the bride and groom spent some time in Vietnam together. So that's how the concept for this came up. She had explained to me that they had spent some time there, and I said, well, why don't we do some food from Vietnam? Why don't we do a little station where we do little Vietnamese lettuce wraps and have little Vietnamese spring rolls? And she loved that idea, and that's where that all came from. So we decided to have the station there, and then behind it, we took all of their photos from the trip that they had together and turned them into pendants and hung those
with
behind. So it
clothespins.
became really personal to them.
So I love listening about these different weddings. And what's great is brides can go to your website, right, and see a highlight of some of the different weddings and certainly food ideas. And I've seen some of those pictures on TV and on your website, and they're absolutely amazing. Rachel and Mary, it's been such an honor to be with you today, and we talk so many things that are so vision, you got to see it. So I really encourage the listeners to go to your, hopefully they're on your website right now listening to this
We have probably close to 50 weddings posted on our website with a photo tour of each wedding, telling the story of what this bride created. And I'll tell you, brides pour over that website. They come to us with ideas, and then we create something uniquely there.
What's the easiest way for them to contact you?
Well, they certainly can go to our website. There's always a contact button. Our blog and our Facebook. People love to be fans of Culinary Crafts. Or you can, we're found just in regular phone. You can pick us up and just call us because we love to actually talk to the brides rather than, obviously a lot can be done on email and a lot can be done with texting, but it is a very touchy-feely business. We love to be in contact with our brides. So visit our website and then click on the Contact Us button, either through email or our phone numbers are all listed there.
So Culinary Crafts, a C on culinary, a C on crafts.com. Of course, you have your blog. And of course, they can also link to you through brideaccess.com if they're there. And they can have the most exquisite wedding that you said, with the food and with the whole environment.
And as an inspiration, they really should become a fan of the blog and Facebook because we're posting 5 times a week, new ideas nonstop.
Again, it's been an honor to be with you guys today, and we look forward to working with you more and many more great weddings. Here we go.
Okay, thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
You're listening to brideaccess.com.